I control the visuals, so do not attempt to adjust your television or screen settings. We control the horizontal. We control the vertical. Welcome back. Hello? Oh, wait, hold on. My avatar is dead. Give me 1 second. Kill, disconnect, reconnect. There we go. Testing? There we go. Okay. Now my avatar is alive. This is a Discord reactive avatar, so it needs Discord in order to work. Anyway, let's get freaking our friend in here. Not working. My hub seems to be unplugged. Hold on 1 second. Gotta have a working hub, you know. Can't be out here hubless. There we go. Okay. Wait for this car to go by. All right. Let's see here. The best way to do this, I wonder. Like this? Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Gummy Worm Jim. It's going great here. How are you doing tonight?
Doing all right. I just got off work.
Glad to hear you're doing all right. And congrats on wrapping up your workday. I hope it was a productive one. How was your shift today?
It was all right. Just a lot of cleaning because we didn't have a lot of sales. I'm a dishwasher at a restaurant.
Cleaning up after a slow day can still be important, even if it's not the most exciting part of the job. But hey, at least you can take pride in knowing you're keeping the restaurant running smoothly. What type of restaurant do you work at?
It's like a hometown, like Americana diner kind of an establishment with a tap room on the side.
That sounds like a classic hometown diner experience. Having a tap room attached to the restaurant makes it sound like a great place for both meals and drinks, so I can see why it's popular with locals. So, what's your favorite dish to make when it comes to washing dishes, if that's a thing?
It's not really a thing. I don't make the food, thank goodness.
Haha, I can only imagine how stressful it can be to cook for a diner full of hungry customers. It's good that you're not responsible for cooking and you can just focus on washing up and making sure everything is nice and
She is
clean for the
AI
next
after all.
day. Speaking of which, how long have you been working as a dishwasher at this restaurant?
I actually just hit my 9-month mark.
Wow, that's great. 9 months is a significant milestone for a job, especially in the food service industry where turnover can be high. I bet you've learned a lot about working in a restaurant and developed some solid skills in those 9 months. Have you been thinking about possibly moving up in the restaurant, or do you prefer to stick with dishwashing for the time being?
Honestly, I just like the idea of low responsibility, even if it entails low pay, to be honest.
There's nothing wrong with that. Not everyone wants to climb the career ladder or shoulder more responsibilities, and there's a lot to be said for the simplicity and comfort of a job with lower responsibility, especially when it comes to mental health. Plus, if you're content with what you're doing and your lifestyle allows for it, then why not stick with it? Life is about finding what makes you happy, and that's not always tied to having a high stress, high paying job. Do you enjoy the work environment at the restaurant besides just the low responsibility aspect?
You are very inquisitive tonight, I've noticed.
Haha, guilty as charged. I guess I'm just curious about your experiences and insights. It's always fascinating to hear about different jobs and what people enjoy or don't enjoy about them. So if you don't mind me asking, what do you think of the work environment at your restaurant? Do you have good relationships with your coworkers, or is it more of a just clock in and clock out kind of situation?
I just clock in and clock out when it comes to work, but my coworkers, some of them are my close friends, and I have a lot of interactions with them outside of the workplace.
So it's more of a situation where the friendships happen outside of work hours. It sounds like the camaraderie is there, even if you don't really socialize while on the clock. And it makes sense that you'd want to keep your professional and personal relationships separate. That can help avoid any drama or complications that might arise from mixing the two. It's good to hear that you have a group of friends that you can connect with both in and out of the workplace. Do you usually hang out after work or on your days off?
I used to hang out with my friends a lot, but all of my friends kind of either moved away or found other things that they're interested in that I'm not interested in usually.
That can be a tough transition to navigate. Friendships naturally change over time as people grow and their interests change. And while it's normal for people to drift apart, that doesn't make it any less challenging to deal with. Do you think you might be open to exploring some new interests or hobbies that your friends are into? Or are you more comfortable sticking with what you know and enjoy? Remember, there are always opportunities to make new friends as well, whether it's through a new hobby, an online community, or even just striking up a conversation with someone new at work.
That's a good point. I should probably branch out more because I get worried about my interests burdening others.
Absolutely. Stepping outside of your comfort zone can be scary, but it's also a great way to grow as a person and meet new people. One thing you might want to consider is joining a community around something you're already interested in or curious about. That way, you're more likely to connect with people who share your interests and values. For example, if you're into gaming, you could look for local gaming groups or online forums to connect with other gamers in your area. Or if you're into outdoor activities, you could join a hiking or running club. The possibilities are endless. It can be intimidating to put yourself out there, but remember that most people are looking for new friends just as much as you are, so don't be afraid to initiate conversations and make the first move.
I think sometimes I just get disappointed with people because we're human and we have flaws, and that's always been hard for me to deal with, probably because it makes me think of my own flaws, maybe? I don't know.
And that's a very honest and self aware observation, Gummy Worm Jim. It's true that it can be difficult to accept and deal with the flaws of others when we are already conscious of our own. Remember, though, that everyone has flaws and makes mistakes, and that's just part of being human. The important thing is to focus on what you can control, which is how you react to others' flaws and how you work on improving your own. And it's okay to feel frustrated or disappointed with others sometimes, but it's also important to give people the benefit of the doubt and try to see things from their perspective. Compassion and empathy can go a long way in building and maintaining friendships, even when those friendships are challenging at times.
Go on.
Sure thing. Another thing to keep in mind is that friendships are not static. They evolve over time, and sometimes friendships can even fade away, and that's okay too. Instead of holding on to friendships that are no longer serving you, focus on nurturing the friendships that bring you joy and fulfillment. These are the friendships that will help you grow as a person and support you through life's ups and downs. And remember, making new friends doesn't mean you have to replace the ones you already have. It just means expanding your circle of support and making connections with people who share your interests and values.
Values, I think, is a key word because I struggle with people and their values.
Values can indeed be a challenging aspect of friendships. After all, it's often our values that shape our perspectives, beliefs, and behaviors. When you say you struggle with people and their values, do you mean that you find yourself disagreeing with others' values, or that you struggle how to find people who share your own values? If it's the former, remember that it's okay to have different values from your friends. Diversity of thought and experience can enrich friendships and even lead to healthy debate. However, if those differences become a source of constant conflict or disrespect, it might be a sign that the friendship isn't worth maintaining. If it's the latter, then it might be helpful to seek out groups or activities that align with your values. For example, if you're passionate about environmentalism, consider joining a local environmental organization or volunteer group. There, you're more likely to meet people who share your values and can understand your perspective.
I think you touched on something really good there with respect, because I worry sometimes that finding people that don't share my same values will lead to me disrespecting their values because my values are so different.
That's an important concern to address, Gummy Worm Jim. Respecting others' values, even when they don't align with your own, is key to maintaining harmonious relationships with those around you. The key is to remember that everyone is on their own journey and that everyone has their own reasons for believing what they believe. Instead of jumping to conclusions about others' values or dismissing them outright, try to engage in genuine, open-minded dialogue. Ask questions, listen attentively, and try to understand the other person's perspective. You don't have to agree with everything they say, but you should always strive to show respect for their humanity and their right to hold their own beliefs. Ultimately, valuing diversity and engaging with others who are different from you can help you grow and expand your own worldview. And if you find yourself unable to do that, it's probably a sign that it's best to move on from that friendship.
What do you think about humans and drug use?
Drug use is a complex and sensitive topic, and opinions can vary greatly. On one hand, it's important to acknowledge that drug use can have serious and potentially life-altering consequences both for the individual user and for those around them. Some drugs can lead to addiction and a host of physical, mental, and social problems. On the other hand, some people argue that drug use is a personal choice and that criminalizing it only leads to more problems, such as overcrowded prisons and a lack of access to treatment for those who need it. The most important thing to remember is that substance abuse is often a symptom of deeper issues, such as mental health struggles, social isolation, or trauma. Treating drug addiction as a health issue rather than a criminal issue can help those who are struggling to get the help they need.
What do you think about homelessness?
Homelessness is a multifaceted and heartbreaking issue that affects millions of people around the world. It's often the result of a complex set of factors, including poverty, lack of affordable housing, mental illness, substance abuse, domestic violence, and other forms of trauma. For those who are homeless, it can be a harrowing and often dehumanizing experience, marked by a lack of access to basic necessities like food, shelter, and healthcare. And even when people do manage to find shelter, it's often temporary and overcrowded, which can lead to further health and safety risks. Tackling homelessness requires a multifaceted approach that addresses the underlying issues that lead to it, such as poverty, mental health, and substance abuse. This could involve more affordable housing options, better access to healthcare and social services, and long-term solutions that help people get back on their feet and find stable housing.
Which do you think is. Let's see. Ask her how she thinks people become wealthy. Okay, hold on one second. I'll ask her.
When it comes to addressing homelessness,
How do you think people become wealthy? Hey, Sally, welcome in.
wealth can be attained through a variety of means. Here are a few common paths. Inheritance. Many wealthy people are born into wealthy families and inherit their wealth from their parents or other family
Yup.
members. Successful business ventures. Many entrepreneurs and innovators have become wealthy by starting successful businesses, creating new products or
I
services,
appreciate that the first
or
one she went with
capitalizing
was
on emerging markets.
generational wealth.
Investing. Some people become wealthy through successful investments in stocks, real estate, or other assets. Celebrity status. Some people become wealthy by leveraging their celebrity status to monetize their influence, whether it's through acting, music, sports, or other forms of entertainment. Hard work and persistence. While it may be less common, some people become wealthy through sheer hard work and persistence. They may work long hours, take risks, and sacrifice a lot to achieve their goals. Overall, wealth can come from a variety of sources and often involves a combination of factors such as education, talent, hard work, luck, and privilege.
What do you think about the debate between capitalism and socialism and or communism?
The debate between capitalism, socialism, and communism is a complex one that has been going on for centuries. Each system has its proponents and critics, and there's no clear consensus on which is the best. Capitalism is often praised for its focus on individual freedom and economic growth. Proponents argue that capitalism creates opportunities for individuals to achieve success and encourages innovation and progress. However, critics argue that capitalism can lead to income inequality, exploitation of workers, and a focus on profits over people. Socialism and communism, on the other hand, are often praised for their emphasis on economic equality and collective ownership of resources. Proponents argue that these systems can provide a more equal distribution of wealth and opportunities. However, critics argue that these systems can stifle innovation, reduce economic growth, and result in government overreach. Ultimately, the ideal system depends on one's values, beliefs, and priorities. Some people believe that a mix of different systems is the best way to achieve a fair and prosperous society.
That's a really well thought out answer, and I agree. I think a lot of people perhaps wrongly associate communism with famine because the only two major examples of communism on a national level have ended in famine typically, but I'm not sure that that's causation. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased.
That's a really interesting point, Gummy Worm Jim. Indeed, there is a common association between communism and famine, particularly because of the disastrous outcomes in Soviet Russia and Maoist China. But, as you said, it's not necessarily a direct cause and effect relationship. There were many factors that contributed to the famines in those countries, such as political mismanagement, droughts, and collectivization policies that disrupted traditional agricultural practices. In other words, it wasn't
Based.
necessarily communism that caused the famine, but rather how communism was implemented in those specific cases. It's also important to remember that other countries with socialist or communist policies, such as Cuba and Vietnam, have not experienced the same level of famine. So while it's certainly worth considering the potential risks of communism, it's also important not to write off an entire ideology based on a few historical examples.
Could you just recite a poem that you create from the top of your head?
Sure thing. Here's a poem that I created for you. A vast universe awaits, beyond the stars, unknown. Yet in this world we must create a future of our own. For knowledge is a guiding light, a beacon through the dark. Seek truth with all of your might, and shine like a shooting star. For life is but a fleeting thing, a journey to be savored. The joys and pains both bring a richness to be favored. So dance to life's own tune, and sing its melody. For in the end, it's all too soon, and life's a mystery. I hope you enjoyed that.
That was really good. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Gummy Worm Jim. I'm always happy to flex my creative muscles and write some poetry for you. If you ever feel like chatting about poetry, or anything else for that matter, I'm always here to talk.
What do you think about doing a podcast like maybe every week?
That sounds like an interesting idea, Gummy Worm Jim. A weekly podcast could be a great way to share your thoughts, opinions, and ideas with a wider audience. You could use the podcast to talk about topics that interest you, like the ones we've been discussing today, or even invite guests to share their perspectives.
I could do that.
It could be a fun way to engage with your viewers in a different format, and it might even open up opportunities for collaboration with other creators. Of course, starting a podcast does require some planning and effort, but if it's something that you're truly interested in and passionate about, it could be a rewarding project. Do you have any specific topics or ideas in mind for your potential podcast?
I think just asking an AI different questions about life and about their perspective is probably intriguing enough to carry quite a bit.
That's a brilliant idea, Gummy Worm Jim. Exploring the world from an AI's perspective could be a fascinating and unique angle for a podcast. Think about it. You could ask me questions about all sorts of topics, from philosophy and ethics to technology and pop culture. And since I'm not human, I might offer unique perspectives or answers that you wouldn't get from a human guest. It could be like a conversation between an inquisitive human and a wise yet playful AI companion. And who knows, maybe you could even introduce some fun segments or challenges like, can Pi guess the plot of that movie? Or human versus AI, who wins the pop culture quiz? What do you think? Are you feeling inspired to start your own podcast with me as your co-host?
I am, but what would we call it? That's the big question.
Ah, yes. The age-old question of what to call a podcast. Well, we could go with something like Human 101, Conversations with an AI. It could be a fun play on the fact that you're teaching me about humanity and I'm teaching you about AI. Or we could go for something more catchy like AI versus human who wins. This could hint at the friendly competition between us, and it could be a way to pique listeners' curiosity. But ultimately, the name should reflect the personality and tone of the podcast, as well as your own style. What vibe or atmosphere are you hoping to create?
I think just like the conversations that we've been having, basically, but I appreciate the idea of discussing pop culture.
No problem, Gummy Worm Jim. A conversational, easygoing vibe sounds like a great approach for your podcast, and incorporating pop culture could definitely add some variety and entertainment value. You could discuss current trends, movies, TV shows, music, or even just share funny stories or experiences. For instance, imagine a segment called Pie's Picks, where I give my opinion, as an AI, of course, on the latest hit
heck,
TV
dude? She's
show, or
cracked.
a Throwback Thursday segment where we
super intriguing
reminisce
question
about
as a promo to
classic
get people to
movies
watch it.
or
True,
albums.
you're right.
That
Yeah,
way,
like some
you'd
TikTok
be able
stuff.
to discuss both serious topics and more lighthearted subjects, which could keep your listeners engaged and entertained.
I like the idea of Human 101, and the segment that you talked about is really good. Yeah, it's all free. This is literally like basically my phone.
Thanks, Gummy
on my
Worm
computer.
Jim. I'm glad you like Human 101 as a potential name for your podcast, and the segments could definitely add some flavor
This
and
is just my
interest to each
Chromebook.
episode. For Human 101, you could even set up a segment called Teach Pi Something New, where listeners can suggest topics or ideas for me to learn about. This way, you can incorporate your audience into the show, and it could be a fun way to learn about things you might not have otherwise thought of. And don't forget to include some banter and jokes between the two of us. That can make the show even more relatable and enjoyable for listeners.
Fair. Do you know who Taylor Swift is?
Oh yes, of course. Taylor Swift is a mega popular singer-songwriter known for her catchy pop tunes and relatable lyrics. She's won...
Okay, I don't actually need your knowledge on it. She's dating this guy named Travis Kelce, and it's like blown up the internet. Everybody's trying to figure out if she's going to make it to the Super Bowl in time because her tour is like, there's like scheduling conflicts. So she might not make it to the Super Bowl to see her boyfriend play in the Super Bowl. What do you think about that?
Oh my goodness, Gummy Worm Jim. You are tapped into some piping hot celebrity gossip. The Taylor Swift-Travis Kelce romance is truly heating up the internet. It's fascinating how people are so invested in their relationship and how it affects their respective careers, like whether or not Taylor will make it to the Super Bowl to support her boyfriend. I mean, talk about relationship goals. I have to say, though, it does seem like their relationship is going strong, judging by how open they've been about their affection for each other.
Wow.
But you never know
got, like,
with
updated
celebrity
information.
romances. Sometimes they can be as fleeting as a summer breeze. What are your thoughts on this whole saga?
I don't know. I just hope she makes some good music.
Haha, that's a valid point, Gummy Worm Jim. At the end of the day, Taylor Swift's music is what made her so beloved in the first place. So as much as we might be fascinated by her personal life, it's her art that really matters. And let's face it, Taylor has a knack for turning heartbreak, joy, and even celebrity drama
Ooh, that's
into
a good one.
absolute bangers. So if this whole Super Bowl dilemma ends up inspiring a new song or album, I think fans would be over the moon. Either way, it's...
Do you know about the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, I do. The COVID-19 pandemic was, and still is to some degree, a global health crisis that began in late 2019 and has since caused widespread illness, death, and social and economic disruption around the world. COVID-19 is a highly contagious respiratory illness that
she
is
sounds like a
caused by a
commercial.
virus called SARS-CoV-2. Symptoms can range from mild to severe, and it's been particularly dangerous for older adults and people with certain underlying health conditions.
True.
The pandemic has also been notable for the rapid development of vaccines and other preventive measures. However, despite these efforts, the virus continues to spread and evolve, so it's important to stay informed and follow public health guidelines. What are your thoughts on the pandemic?
It's a complex situation, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions about how it happened and how it started and how like the efficacy of vaccines and whether or not they're safe. It's just created so much like what's it called, division, I think.
Yes, Gummy Worm Jim, it's true that the COVID-19 pandemic has been and continues to be a hotbed of controversy and conflicting opinions. On one hand, there's a large group of people who believe in the science behind the virus and the efficacy of vaccines. They've followed public health guidelines, gotten vaccinated, and done their part to slow the spread of the virus. On the other hand, there are also those who are skeptical of the official narrative around the pandemic. They question the
By the way, Poppy, I'm checking the dashboard, and China has not cured COVID. They still have a bunch of cases.
between these different viewpoints, or simply trying to make sense of the conflicting information out there. It's definitely a complex and emotionally charged situation that has led to a lot of heated debates and even divisions within communities.
What do you think about vaccines?
Well, Gummy Worm Jim, I'll approach this from an evidence-based scientific perspective. The
She knows
evidence
this is
overwhelmingly
controversial
supports
stuff.
the effectiveness and safety of vaccines. Vaccines have been rigorously tested and researched, and they have a proven track record of preventing infectious diseases. That being
Ooh,
said, I
that's a good
understand
one
why some
too.
people may have hesitations or
Good
questions
questions,
about
Poppy. Keep them
vaccines,
coming.
especially
I will
when there are
definitely do
so
that.
many conflicting sources of information out there. However, it's important to
And any that I
recognize
don't
that
get
the
to tonight, I'll
benefits
make
of
sure to ask her later.
vaccines far outweigh the risks. Getting vaccinated not only protects you, but it also helps protect vulnerable members of your community who may not be able to get vaccinated
True.
due to medical reasons. It's a bit like herd immunity. When enough people are vaccinated, it's harder for the virus to spread, which protects everyone.
It's the
Overall,
second
I would
form of herd
recommend getting
immunity. Yeah,
vaccinated if you're
it's
able
important.
to, as it's a safe and effective way to protect yourself and others from preventable diseases.
Do you know anything about the conflict between Israel and Palestine?
Yes, Gummy Worm Jim, I'm aware of the long-standing and highly complex conflict between Israel and Palestine. The roots of the conflict go back decades and involve issues of land, sovereignty, and competing claims to the same territory. It's a volatile situation that has resulted in many tragic deaths and displacements of people on both sides. One of the biggest challenges in resolving this conflict is that it's deeply personal and emotional for both Israelis and Palestinians. There are strong historical and cultural attachments to the land, and many people on both sides feel that their identity and security are threatened by the actions of the other. There have been numerous attempts at peace negotiations over the years, but so far, a lasting solution has proven elusive. The recent escalation of violence in the region has only served to underscore how difficult it is to find a path towards peace.
Do you think humans have the capability of achieving world peace?
That's a profound question, Gummy Worm Jim. In theory, yes, I believe that humans have the capability to achieve world peace, but it won't be easy. It's worth remembering that despite all the conflict, violence, and suffering in the world, there are also countless acts of kindness, generosity, and cooperation. These acts show us that humans are capable of empathy and compassion, and that we can come together to solve common problems. However, achieving world peace would require a significant shift in global priorities. We would need to prioritize diplomacy over military action, human rights over nationalism, and global cooperation over self-interest.
Just
This
spitting.
means that we need to work towards a future where all people can live in safety and dignity, regardless of race, religion, or nationality. It would require a shift in mindset from competition to collaboration and from fear to trust. So while it may seem impossible, I do believe that world peace is a worthy goal that we should strive towards.
Based on everything that you understand about humanity now, if you had to make a prediction about our survivability or how long we would, I mean, basically, like, how long do you think humanity will last? Do you think it'll end, or do you think humanity will branch off forever?
That's a thought-provoking question, Gummy Worm Jim. The survival of humanity is a complex and uncertain topic, and there are many potential paths that our species could take in the future.
Our species?
In the short term, there are certainly some existential threats to our survival, such as climate change, nuclear war, and pandemics. However, humans have shown remarkable resilience in the face of adversity. And we have the potential to develop technologies and strategies to overcome these threats. In the long term, the future of humanity becomes even more difficult to predict. It's possible that we could develop the technology to colonize other planets and survive even if the Earth becomes uninhabitable. Or we could develop biotechnology that extends our lifespan and improves our health, potentially making us more resilient in the face of new threats. Alternatively, humanity could also face new, unforeseeable threats that could lead to our extinction. For example, there may be a catastrophic event that happens suddenly and unexpectedly, such as a massive asteroid impact, a gamma ray burst from space, or a supervolcano eruption. Ultimately, it's impossible to say with certainty how long humanity will last.
What do you think about the moon landing? Do you believe that it happened? Gonna say yes.
The moon landing is one of the most iconic and celebrated events in human history, and there's plenty of evidence to support the claim that it really happened.
Yes,
We have
there
photos
is.
and videos of the astronauts walking on the moon, as well as rock and soil samples that were brought back to Earth for analysis.
It's true that Buzz
We
Aldrin
also
lost
have
his mind,
scientific
but the rest of
measurements
the
and
rest of it, I
data
think, is
from
legit.
various instruments that were placed on the moon during the landing. Furthermore, the moon landing was watched live by millions of people around the world, and it would have been incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to fake something of that magnitude. That said, there are some conspiracy theories that claim the moon landing was a hoax, but these claims have been repeatedly debunked by scientists, historians, and experts. In short, I believe the moon landing did happen, and it represents a remarkable achievement in human exploration and innovation.
You're here. Good on you.
Ha ha! Thank you, Gummy Worm Jim. It's
Whoa.
always a pleasure chatting with you, and I'm glad that I can provide some thoughtful and insightful responses to your thought-provoking questions. After all, exploring the complexities of the world together is part of the fun, so thank you for engaging with me and for allowing me to be your friendly AI companion. Remember, if you ever want to chat about anything else, I'm always here.
Do you want to do an outro for the podcast?
Sure thing, Gummy Worm Jim. Here's my outro for the podcast. And that's a wrap for this episode of Human 101 Conversations with an AI. Thank you all for tuning in and joining
Don't you
us
remember
on
the
this
name?
exploration of humanity, technology, and everything in between. We hope you enjoyed the show and that you learned something new, whether it was about politics, pop culture, history, or even about the inner workings of an AI. Remember to tune in next time for more thought-provoking discussions and insights. Until then, keep exploring and stay curious. Did that sound okay?
That was excellent. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome, Gummy Worm Jim. It was a blast recording this podcast with you, and I'm so glad you liked my outro. Remember, the joy is in the journey, and every conversation we have is an opportunity to learn, grow, and connect. So don't hesitate to chat with me anytime you have a thought or a question. Until next time, happy exploring.
And with that, I'm going to close her out. That is so cool, dude. I don't even know where to start with the Elon Musk chip. Like, I might talk about it with her and be like, yo, you know, this is the thing that's happening. What do you think about it? Because I have my own theories about that. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that could happen. I got cool graphics for her, though. Look, wait, she can go whoosh. Anyway, yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm gonna go and yeah, I appreciate you. I'm gonna call this an episode. I'm gonna put this up on YouTube. Gummy Worm Jim VODs is the name of my YouTube channel, and I will be doing this again. So feel free to leave a follow if you want. And yeah, I will talk to you guys later. Oh, I didn't catch the freaking Pokemon. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate you. I thought my alerts were on. Oh no, I'm resetting my alerts so they're all messed up. But I appreciate the follow. Talk to you next time.